With me is a distinguished guest, CEO at Savannah, a group of companies using blockchain technology in various sectors of society. So, hello family, hello everybody. I hope all you guys are well. Thank you very much for taking off time to join us in this very first episode that we are producing content, and many more that will be coming up in the near future. With me is a distinguished guest, CEO at Savannah, a group of companies using blockchain technology in various sectors of society. Savannah's technological arm, Crypto Savannah, has led the adoption of blockchain technology in Uganda, and he is an African industry thought leader. Set up Uganda's first crypto exchange. Tuzanye, a leading African blockchain gaming guild, and Reddit, which is a company that is utilizing blockchain technology to fractionalize real estate in Uganda. He is also the chairman of the Blockchain Association of Uganda, was the co-founder of Binance Uganda. He is a member of the World Forum Council on Cryptocurrencies and sits on Uganda's National Task Force on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. This is none other than Kwame Uganda. You're most welcome, CEO.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for taking off time to join me in this journey of my very first episode. But this means a lot to me because it endorses the work that I want to do. Okay. Well, we are here. It's at Old Wine Sheds in Tinda, in Kampala, Uganda. We'll be taking the next couple of minutes with Kwame on a journey. I won't talk about the blockchain industry as pertaining here in Uganda and Africa. We're talking about cryptocurrencies, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, who play to earn CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, regulations as it is here in Uganda. But most importantly, I think it is we want to hear from Kwame being chairman of the Blockchain Association in Uganda say something, and also his story and how he began. Please take us on the journey. How did you begin?
So it's a delight for me to be on the show, and I fully support the efforts by anyone in our country to be able to popularize what is going on regarding blockchain. I think there is both been very limited amount of information, but also distorted information. And so the more credible people we can come steering the conversation in the right direction, creating a correct narrative, the better. So on to your question regarding my journey. My journey began in 2015, and I was working on a project. We were building a platform for elections in 2016. And so while we were working on it in 2015, one of the guys on our team asked if I had heard of a blockchain. And I said, no, I've never heard of blockchain. And he asked, have you heard of Bitcoin? And I said, I've never heard of Bitcoin. And so for most people, when they ask that question, the natural answer is no, I don't know what are these things you're talking about. And so we began to look more into it. And I remember clearly that day in 2015, I Googled what is Bitcoin, and I remember seeing the price, $333. I said, this thing is too expensive, why should anyone be interested in it? Now the funny thing is that is almost everyone's first reaction when they interact with Bitcoin, when it's $1,000 or $300 or $10 or even now in the 20,000 plus. That is their first reaction. But as you begin to dig deeper into it, you actually realize what it is. And so in 2015, then we made a decision to begin to take a closer look at this technology. And we had people talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but we also noticed that they didn't know how to access them. So in order for someone to access crypto, what they would do is that they would send money to a certain account. I think it was in Cyprus or something, I can't recall, and then send documentation. And so it was a very convoluted process. And so what we decided to do was to set up an equivalent of a Forex bureau. Just like the way Forex bureaus work, You go to a forex bureau, you have your dollars, you get shillings. You have your shillings, you get yen or pounds. And so we did the exact same thing, except that the forex bureau was not physical, but was online. And so I came together with a group of friends, and we set up this forex bureau online, which is also known as an over-the-counter desk, an OTC desk. And so that was the birth of Uganda's first OTC desk, called Binusu. And since then, we began getting more and more involved with the crypto space. Because crypto is like this famous Alice in Wonderland story of going down a rabbit hole. Once you begin looking into it, you realize that there are so many possibilities, both with the applications of the technology in crypto, but also with the technology itself, blockchain. In 2016, that's what we began doing. 2017, similarly. Then towards the end of 2017, the players that were involved in blockchain came together to create the Blockchain Association of Uganda. This was also the time when there were many scams that were emerging in the country. And so we wanted to be able to enable society to distinguish legit from fake, wheat from chaff, what was real from the many vichupuli things that were in society at the time. But we also had a heart that Ugandans don't miss the opportunity. Because we knew that if a wrong narrative of blockchain technology or cryptocurrency gets into society, it would require a lot of time before that wrong narrative is corrected. Now, while that wrong narrative is being corrected, while that time is passing, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years, other countries that had a correct understanding would be significantly moving further ahead and leveraging the opportunities that blockchain and crypto enables. And so we created the Blockchain Association of Uganda in 2017. Initially, it was 5 companies, and then subsequently. Then 2018, we did something audacious. We said, let us organize Africa's largest conference of blockchain technology. Interestingly, we were traveling. I was at an airport with a few friends, and as we were traveling, one of us, Solomon, saw the Forbes cover, and that's when CZ featured on the Forbes cover. And we were wondering, but who's this guy? Who's this well-known crypto guy? And so we began looking into it more and more, and one thing led to another. Eventually, we held Africa's largest conference of blockchain, of which CZ was keynote speaker. And he came and really inspired our country because he's well-grounded in the industry. 2018, 2019, and the story goes on, and I can tell many more things. But that's how we started, and we are excited to be trailblazers in the industry and making a contribution.
While you were sharing, there's what piqued my mind. You said you built the first exchange, Ugandan exchange called Industry. How was it like? Because I believe around that time there are many customers. Really, that was some were Ugandans really interested in buying blockchain and buying cryptocurrencies. What was the adoption like, and what was the challenge that you faced in your journey to set up the exchange itself?
Like any venture, it's critical to bring on board similar minds, but bearing different talents, different skills, different skill sets. And so, different members of the team could do different things. And the gentleman who's our chief engineer now at Binusu, at Savannah, was actually the mind that was creating Binusu. And so we continuously get input. So as David, who's our chief engineer at Savannah now, spent more time coding it out and building it out. We spent more time giving feedback, trying to ensure that there was a product market fit and so on. So you've asked an important question about the challenges. I would say that the initial challenge is translating an idea into practice. And so kudos goes to anybody who's able to take an idea that they have in their head and put it on paper. And putting it on paper and then translating it into action. But it requires a team of people. So each of these team members were playing different roles. One of us had to deeply look at the regulatory framework. Is this allowed in Uganda? It's not allowed in Uganda. If it is launched in Uganda, what are the type of legal implications? Then people to get to know about it. So you need people who can market. You need people who can publicize and tell others what this is. You need people who can critique. So we had a good team of members, each of them playing different roles as this nascent idea was being put together. So, on to the point of the challenges. Of course, there were technical challenges, making sure that it was as free of bugs and it was fully functional. There was knowledge challenges because we on the team who were exploring this idea had to ramp up our knowledge really quickly, but we also had to create knowledge in society that this is something legitimate. We began at a time when there were a lot of scams in the market, and so that was a huge push as well towards the work that we were doing. So those challenges notwithstanding, we're able to navigate and be able to bring the idea to fruition.
Thank you.
Sure.
Talking about scams, what would you call a scam? Because there's people out there who are very much skeptical on cryptocurrencies. They think it's scam. But what would you call a scam and what would you call not a scam?
Yeah. So I'll take the story back to there was a man called Charles Ponzi who was well known in the 20s for scamming people. And it's after him that Ponzi schemes took their name. And so a scam or these Ponzi schemes are essentially pyramid types of structures in which people are asked to bring in money to be part of an activity, an involvement, to gain something in return. But they are then tasked with bringing other people into that opportunity. And as they bring new people to that opportunity, the money that is brought in is used to pay the early people who joined that opportunity. And so this type of scam or this type of pyramid scheme expresses itself differently and has done so throughout generations. We have seen it in our country, whether it is with people selling certificates or people selling a certain type of product, claiming to be doing certain things. But ultimately they end up, it's really fraud that is masked. And the initiators of the ideas usually run away once they have created a critical mass of revenue for themselves. And then they end up running away, disappearing, and leaving the structure that they have set up to crumble. Now, that is what actually happened, because there were crypto pyramid schemes, or rather there were scams coming in claiming to be cryptocurrency businesses, and one of which was OneCoin. There's been quite some elaborate work done around that scam called OneCoin. But I think as a society, we need to constantly be vigilant. These pyramid schemes, these Ponzi schemes, these scams come in different manifestations, but at the core, it's the same. We need to be mindful whenever someone introduces a new idea and then requires for you to introduce other new people. Those are some of the red flags that we should be aware of. But that having been said, we also have many young people looking for opportunities in our country. And because people are looking for opportunities, it is easy to fall victim to these things. But we should be careful that when opportunities that sound too good present themselves, we should spend more time doing research, trying to find out if it's legitimate or not before we jump into the opportunity itself.
You are a CEO of a company that is having many other companies down below you, subsidiary of companies. For example, you own Tuzania. It's a leading African blockchain gaming guild.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
So, Tuzania is a local word, as you know. It's based in Uganda, one of the common languages here in Uganda. However, Tuzania, aside from the word, the company, is a blockchain gaming business. So, blockchain is having utility in various industries. And by utility, what I mean is that it is being applied to different industries. It has very good use cases in different industries. One of them, and which is now the most recent one, is the gaming industry. And the global gaming industry is taking keen interest in blockchain because blockchain is able to bring unrealized value into the gaming industry. So what used to happen with gaming before is that people would play video games, and whether it's a fighting game or a racing game, if it's a fighting game, you beat someone and then you gain points. If it's a racing game, people run or people drive cars, and whoever wins gains points. But nothing happens after that. So somebody has spent 2, 3, 4 hours of their time, their energy, their emotions, and then when they switch off the PS4, when they switch off the device, they walk away and that's it. But what blockchain is able to do, because of these interesting things called NFTs, which is one of the applications of the technology, NFTs bring unique digital value And so NFT characters are now being put into video games. Therefore, the digital uniqueness that exists because of blockchain technology is now being applied to each of the characters that are being used to play in video games. This is a very important point, because before the technology, those characters were not unique. Those could just be random computer characters that are generated and are replicated. But now that is not happening. Therefore, that character that is being used to play in the game is not replicable. That character is unique. And because that character is unique, we have unique inherent value. It's critical. And so blockchain gaming allows for these unique characters to play. Therefore, as they gain points, as has been happening in the traditional video games, those points can actually be translated into the real world economy. Those points actually can be translated into money in society. And so we are seeing many global technology companies buying traditional video gaming companies because they want to apply the new technology of blockchain to the gaming world. And so we're doing that in Uganda. And so we have a team of several players in the country. We're getting our feet wet, better understanding the industry. And once we have a full grip on the details of it, we want to scale it to the rest of the part of the conference.
Awesome. How many team members are you? How many youth are you empowering here in Uganda?
Yeah, so on the Tanzania side specifically, there are 87. So there's a team of 87 young people that we're working with.
So how is the gender ratio, and how I'm particularly interested in also that gender side where technology is so look at it, it has to be inclusive and ladies participating, or is some of the policies encouraging women or young girls to get involved?
Technology, first of all, thank you for this question. This is a very important question, and it's going to be an opportunity to discuss it somewhere. Technology is a tool. So as a tool, it takes on inherent biases. So it takes on the biases of society, or the biases of its creators. And so the biases that we see in society of many women not getting involved in technology similarly expresses itself. Not many ladies getting involved or getting into school or sciences and so on. So these biases express themselves a lot in technology. So we have seen few lady gamers emerge at Tanzania, but we have also been very deliberate, because when there's a bias in society, anything, you have to put in affirmative action. You have to put in place measures in order to rectify that imbalance. So all of us recognize the inherent imbalances in society, which have kept the girl child behind. So the question is, what are you going to do about it now that you recognize it? So at Tanzania, we are working hard to create a 50-50 ratio of male and female players. Currently, it is not yet there. I would say that we're at about 35-65. But with the new crop of teams that come in, as we build the skill set, our aspiration is to do 50-50 ratio. Such that even we, in our small ways, whatever work that we are doing, we're able to rectify this historical imbalance that we all recognize. Yes.
How about Redix? I'm seeing you organizing real estate. How is it expanding out? How is it?
I'd be delighted to introduce all of us to that lady. Her name is Margaret Nacha. She's steering Redix. Redix is a very, it's an important opportunity and revolutionary in our country. And I'll elaborate on this somewhere. So Redix stands for Real Estate Development Exchange. The real estate sector in Uganda is one of the many sectors that people get into because it's a good store of value and there's good return on the investment. Now, but store of value is the main driving factor. So in as much as real estate is a good opportunity, and it's good for individuals, it's also good for the nation. Things like home ownership are very good for a nation. Security in land and so on. It also has challenges. And some of its real challenges are the barrier to entry. Meaning someone can only get involved with real estate if they have so much money. In other words, if you have 10,000 shillings or 100,000 shillings, you are not able to enter real estate easily. Now, what blockchain does is that it breaks that problem of barrier to entry. That is one major one that it breaks. And another one that it breaks is the amount of liquidity required to do projects. And I'll speak about both. So, fractionalization of real estate essentially means that any real estate project to be undertaken does not need to be undertaken by one or two investors, developers, financiers. Rather, the ownership of the project can be split into various owners. So, if a project, let's say, is $1 million shillings or 100 million shillings, you can create ownership amongst many people, not just one or two people, but rather 50 or 100 people. And blockchain enables this to be done very easily and very securely. So if a project, again, I'll give the example of a $1 million shilling project or 100 million shillings project. You can create 50 owners, you can create 100 owners of the project, each contributing $1 million shillings to the 100 million project, and each being given their proportionate share of ownership in that project. So similar to how you have shares of a company, now you can have shares of a house, or shares of an apartment, or shares of a piece of land. And what then happens is that people then can own, let's say, a square meter of a project. So if a project is then tokenized or fractionalized, like we're just discussing, its ownership is distributed amongst many people. And they also get a small amount of return. So if someone takes up a rent of the place, I own, by contributing, let's say, $1 million shillings in an 100 million project, I own 100th of that project. I get 1% of it. And so if that project generates $1,000, I'm able to get my $10, which is a tenth or 100th of that project, whatever that proportion is. So that is able to allow many more people to participate in the real estate opportunity, but also able to unlock the financing that is tied up in real estate. This idea is made possible through blockchain, and it is already being executed in other parts of the world. What we're working hard to do, what Maggie is steering us to do, is to be able to bring this opportunity to the Ugandan citizens.
It's about traceability. Walimi. You also it's part of the work you are involved in, and it's part of your one of the companies.
So blockchain is very important in the agriculture value chain because it allows for traceability. What traceability means is that I'm sitting here in Uganda drinking my cup of coffee, or someone can be in Paris or in New York drinking their cup of coffee, but there is capability to tell which farm in Zombo that coffee came from, or which area in Uganda, somewhere in Kanungu where coffee is grown, Ujeo farm or something, and is able to trace the series of steps that were taken between the time it was planted to the time that I'm drinking. Now this is great, this is revolutionary, and it gives a lot of value to especially the farmers. There's an opportunity in other words to give more value, to put more income into the pockets of our farmers by adding a traceability layer to the agriculture value chain. Now, wherever we look at around the world, there's, especially in the agriculture conversation, there is a whole movement towards ensuring that something is organic, ensuring that there is minimal pesticides that are used that are put into any product. Now, all this can be ensured once you have an application of traceability. And so what Walimi is actually an agricultural ecosystem. Walimi Katali is an agricultural. Walimi is an agricultural ecosystem. Walimi Katali is the client-facing side of an agriculture e-commerce platform. And we are next adding the traceability layer, then the identity layer, and finally the financing layer. So just like the way we use Jumia now, what Walimi Katali is similar to that, but focused on agriculture products. It works closely with farmers and small and medium enterprises in order to connect the farmers directly to the market, especially hotels, cafes, and so on, and is able to make this possible on an e-commerce platform. Therefore, small businesses now just go in and order and are able to get produce that is brought to them directly. So there is a B2B component and a B2C component, meaning business to business or business to customer. So there's an option for me at home to be able to order directly on walimi.com, or as a business to be able to go to walimi.com, b2b.walimi.com, and both are functional. It's also led by, there are women active in the team. It's led by a man currently.
That's nice.
Called Jotham, a lady called Anto is in charge of operations. And Walimi Katal is one of the companies and businesses that we are delighted in Savannah to be supporting.
Thank you. You're really doing so much work with this blockchain technology. So much things. Thank you. Keep up the great work. Really, I have a lot to ask, but I feel like, wow, you're really, I don't know how you hold up, man. You're doing so much things in different sectors, agriculture, gaming, real estate. Thank you very much. And then I want us to...
Let me add that is only possible once you have a good team of people. And so we have a good team of people at Savannah that are able to go into the due details to enable these opportunities to come.
Wow. Okay. There's this concept, CBDC, central bank digital currencies. I believe you're very much qualified to answer this, which is it's a form of digital cash issued by a nation's central bank. I want us to talk about it a little. Usually, when you swipe or you make payments via cash or via credit card instead of cash, or you paid via a deposit, and then normally they have to make a digital record for this transaction and update the account. What do you have to say about that in relation to Uganda and CBDCs?
CBDCs are an important concept to understand. Like you mentioned, central bank digital currencies. So what is happening is that the world is moving digital. And so what central banks are now doing is that they're using the opportunities or the eye-opening reality that blockchain has dawned on the world to launch their own form of digital currency. So rather than private players or private companies like Facebook, which was launching a project a few 2 years or so ago, rather than private players doing that, central banks are now doing that. So central bank digital currencies are sovereign-backed digital currencies that are either issued using blockchain or another type of technology. So some are using blockchain, some are testing out with others. And there's what they call a wholesale CBDC or a retail CBDC. So just to think about the exact way the monetary system works, meaning money is printed, there's demand for it in the economy, central banks send money to commercial banks, then commercial banks distribute that money in the economy. That's the exact same way which a CBDC will work. But it won't be physical, it will be digital. And we already have about 9 countries around the world that have issued CBDCs in a pilot process. Over 80% of central banks around the world are currently having conversations, testing, developing POCs, which are proofs of concept, and CBDCs. Several in Africa as well. Nigeria was the most recent country to issue their CBDC, the e-Naira, the electronic Naira. And it's a great thing that our own central bank is there to be able to get understand what CBDC is doing and how it works. So, in the case of Uganda specifically, what we know for sure is that this is on public record. The central bank is discussing it internally. And there's been some interviews with BOU officials have mentioned that they're looking at CBDCs and what it means for our economy, taking into consideration our context as Uganda, where we are in economic development, making sure things like last mile and nobody's left behind, considering phone penetrations and so on. So we see this as an inevitability, but we're going through the processes as we get to utility rates for the CBDC.
Okay, you talked about central bank and central bank of Uganda in particular.
Yes.
Most recently, the central bank that's still, I don't know if it's contradiction. It was talking of banning crypto. What does the regulation stand on cryptocurrencies and CBDCs
Okay. So, in terms of regulation, first of all, it should be clear that innovation precedes regulation. So, you cannot regulate something that does not exist. In other words, people come up with ideas, put them out there, and then regulation follows. And then after that, taxation and so on and so on. That's how this history has moved all along. So, the innovation that is going on currently is being looked at by the central bank, and they did not ban. What happened was that central bank issued a letter to what they call their NPS licensees. So it has issued licenses to about 14, 15 companies to carry out payments. And this is specifically relating to mobile payments. And what they have done is that they wrote a letter to these licensees of theirs, telling them to desist from dealing with crypto businesses. And so it was not a ban on crypto, but rather it was an instruction to their licensees. That having been said, it was a blow to the industry. So in as much as the central bank sent a document to their licensees, it dampened the entire industry. It dampened the entire industry because by licensees desisting from dealing with crypto businesses, that means crypto businesses could not work with existing payment providers to be able to carry out their day-to-day work. Therefore, in response, we saw many crypto companies exiting or sending communications saying that we can no longer do payment systems in Uganda, we can no longer integrate with mobile money and so on. So that was a blow. It was not a good thing. I would say that in retrospect, what would have been better would have been to have any responsible authority, like the central bank or any other, be able to call the players to the table and say, what is this industry that you're involved with? What is happening? What does it mean for us? How do we ensure consumer protection? How do we ensure that all the concerns that we have as a central bank are met or are not being threatened by the work that you're doing? Since that time, however, the Blockchain Association of Uganda has been engaging with the central bank, and they are still engaging in closed-door conversations, which we hope that will yield good results. As a central bank, I'm sure it's actually good to have questions to the central bank instead. But I would say that they want to know what is going on in the economy, which is really which is their primary mandate. Issues of monetary policy and what is happening in the banking system and so on, which is right. However, what is also right is that innovation is going on, and in order to take an interest in that innovation and see how it relates with the existing mandate, the players should sit down together. So as these ongoing conversations are happening, we expect that what will happen is what we are seeing happen in other countries around the world. The end result really is some form of regulatory framework to support the nascent industry development. I started by mentioning that when any industry is started with no regulation in place yet, which is expected because it's just started. We saw mobile money regulation emerging just 2 years ago, which was 9 years after mobile money had been in existence in society. So we want that a regulatory framework is developed as soon as possible. But even while the framework is being developed, existing players should be allowed to operate because there's a lot of value that they bring into society. In that regard, I'll just highlight some of the value that crypto businesses are bringing. They're able to provide payments for significantly cheaper than the existing payment systems, and they're also able to add a layer of unique traceability. In other words, if someone is actually interested in things like following up fraud cases and so on, crypto does that very, very well. So crypto is programmable money, and because it is programmable money, it has a series of other layers of utility. So we expect that with time, a regulatory framework will be put in place, and it will ease the ongoing grade, which is what we see in society today.
How I felt the ban after the Central Bank of Uganda issued that sort of ban, like the letter out there, is when I went to Binance.com. They were actually stopping the conversion of any form of cryptocurrency to UGX. So in a way, since it sent really it was really a blow for Uganda. I hope they're working on it. There's a sandbox that they're trying to, a framework which they're trying to work this out. Because I believe it puts the image of Uganda in, not so much in a good light. I hope they work this out.
I hope so too.
How is it coming out?
Yeah, so what is happening right now is that, again, from the information that's in the public domain, the central bank issued that communication to the NPS licensees, instructing them to desist. Then there was a communication between the Blockchain Association and the central bank, which essentially requested for an opportunity to meet to discuss the subject further. And the subject is still under discussion. You touched on this point of sandboxes. So in as much as the subject is being discussed, the details of how the collaboration will work between the players and the central bank is still under discussion. What is public, however, is that the central bank has these spaces called sandboxes. Actually, a sandbox specifically. And a sandbox is an environment that many regulators have set up. We are seeing this with security exchanges in other countries. Our Capital Markets Authority in Uganda has spoken about one. Our Insurance Regulatory Authority has spoken about one. So a sandbox is an environment that regulators, or those with the regulatory mandates, put in place to test ideas. So if an idea does not yet, if an idea there's a lot of interest in it and people are doing things with it, as the regulation is not yet in place, they suggest that why don't you test your ideas in a controlled environment? Let us learn from the ideas, let us see what type of value it has in society, let us appreciate the risks, the concerns.
Now, let's talk about self-sovereign identity. It is a term used to describe the digital movement that recognizes an individual should own and control their identity without the intervening administrative authorities, which could be governments, registration bodies in certain states. SSI allows people to interact in a digital world with the same freedom and capacity for trust as they do in the offline world. These kinds of information that enables this could be things like birth certificate, citizenship, university degrees, or business licenses.
The idea of self-sovereign identity is a very important one, and it's a new standard that's emerging. But let me juxtapose. Let me talk about physical identity so that we get the point about self-sovereign identity. If I ask you for your ID right now, and I'm running a cafe, and I want to make sure that people below the age of 21, for instance, do not get into the cafe. If it's a bar or something, I ask you for your ID. I look at it. I can see you were born 18 years ago, and if you are born more than 18 years ago, I don't allow you in. So if you're under 18, you stay out. If you're above 18, you enter. That's how an ID today works. But me, who has asked you for your ID, I can also see your name. I can see male or female. I can see that you were born in Dokolo. I can see so many things. Now, that is a concern. I want us now to think about this digitally. Digitally, if you give me your ID, I am able to see all this information but also keep it. Yet all I'm interested in is just the age. Now, if I keep all this information, I can do anything I want with this information. Because I've not only seen the age, but I've seen everything else. I've seen where you're born, I've seen your last name, I've seen you male or female, and so on. And I can easily sell that information to other people who are interested in knowing all the men in Uganda, or all the men from Dokolo, and so on. So, in order to prevent that, blockchain introduces something known as self-sovereign identity. Self-sovereign identity means that you, as the owner of the identity, is the one that gives permission for the identity to be used or not. And so, in self-sovereign identity, any item, any aspect of my identity, if it is to be used by anybody, I have to give permission. if someone wants to know where I am from, if someone wants to know male or female, I have to authorize that. I have to authorize that. In other words, it ensures that the ownership of the identity is with me in person. Currently, I give it to any third party because there are series of parties that collect identity, whether it is banks, whether it is driver's license, teams of people, whether it is mirror, and so on. So all these people have aspects of my identity, and they can do with it what they want to do. This is what is happening around the world with identity. But with self-sovereign identity, the ownership is with myself, and it is only me to authorize when someone is interested in any aspect of my identity, and blockchain technology enables for that.
What do you think Africa or Uganda will look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
Good question. Should we talk about cultural, political, economic, technological, developmental?
The world is getting into a convergence of all these things.
Absolutely.
So you could talk about, because something we're a reflection of our society and how we're progressing. So you could talk about from a technological standpoint.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll actually borrow the expression that you used. There's a convergence. And we're seeing this a lot in technology. But technology is ultimately a catalyst for society's development. And as we see more and more of these technologies pervade our society, they catalyze development. So in other words, they make things move faster. They increase productivity, they increase efficiency, and so on. If I'm to paint a broad brush, you said the next 10 years.
Next 10 years.
So now we're talking about the year 2032. Correct?
Yeah.
So if we listen to statements recently by the president or in the media, we're seeing that Uganda has just entered the middle income status. You're doubting that.
Okay. That's interesting to hear about that.
Yes. So we have learned of recent that Uganda has entered the middle income status.
Yeah.
But in order for Uganda to be declared a middle income country, it has to sustain this GDP per capita of about 1,000 for at least 2 years, right? So I see Uganda definitely sustaining that. There might be a hiccup here and there because of the economic conditions globally, but I see us gradually, I'm now talking about 10 years down the road. So I see the GDP per capita going up. In other words, I see the income of Ugandan populations, Ugandan citizens, going up. And this is a result of, several factors. We just talked about technology, then there are other aspects like the oil in the country and so on. But I also see our population increasing a lot. And if you think about the metric income per capita, it's a relationship between income in a nation and population. But the population is going to grow faster than the income growth. And this is also a result of policies in the country. As you know quite well, Uganda has among the highest rates of fertility. On average, women give birth to 6-7 children. People are dying at older ages, so infant mortality has reduced. So all that is going to catalyze development because there are many more young people. And when there are many more young people in an economy, that means the productivity goes up. Because young people are the engines of a nation's growth. They're the ones who have energy, they're the ones who can work. But we must make sure that these young people are also well educated, digitally literate, and they can participate in the many skills that, the many opportunities that young people can harness for their country's development. So we can talk about this subject a lot, but that's an abridged version of it.
Get to summarize. What has been your biggest failure, and what have you learned from that experience?
That's a good question. That sounds more like a personal question, but I don't mind that. Several failures. Like many people have had personal, I've had career, I've had family. But irrespective of the failure, I think what is critical is our humility to take learning lessons from each of these challenges, each of these failures that we encounter. I would say that for me, I'll give you one. Like I said, there are many. I'll give you one. In 2012, so in as much as I do work on the technology side, I also am interested in the issue of government. So in 2012, I contested for an election. It was an election to represent Uganda at the East African Legislative Assembly. And I was not successful. And in that language, they say your victory was postponed. They don't say you failed. They say your victory was postponed. But I want us to think about the point I was making here. Whatever challenges we encounter, whatever failures, whatever discouragements we face, personal, professional, or any other, family and so on, the important thing is what lessons have we learned from it? Because none of us will not encounter failure at some point or another, or disappointment at one point or another, from ourselves, from our families, from our loved ones, and so on. But what do you do having gone through that? I think that if one can grow from that process, if one can take that experience as a stepping stone in life, the sky is the limit. And so, in as much as we think through or reflect on or talk about our failures, first of all, I would say that we shouldn't be shy in talking about them. We should take them, we should learn from them, and we should leverage them to enable us to be better and more productive people in society.
So I think it was also put in a way that made you focus on technology. You built a number of companies and they're all doing so much well. And you are really doing so much incredible work. Thank you. Lastly, to summarize,
Yes.
where can someone find you?
The physical, I can tell you where my house is and my room, but that won't help. Let's talk. But let me give my address where people can find me. Online, email kwamerugunda@gmail, or kwame.r@savannah.uk. Then Telegram, both Telegram and Twitter, Kwame Rugunda. First name, last name, Kwame Rugunda, both Telegram and Twitter. So I'm relatively active on email, Twitter, and Telegram. Then our offices located in Tinda, Minister's Village, on just behind, actually just next to UHMG. The area is called basically Minister's Village. So just off Stretcher, that's where our office is. And that's where the Savannah offices are. That's where it sits. But I could be most conveniently and quickly accessed via those three, either email or Twitter or Telegram.
There you have it, guys. Thank you. I've been blessed by Kwame. Please you can check him out. Check out his work. Thank you for watching. If you watched till the end,
Remember to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And if you find the content helpful, share it with your loved ones or friends. And keep in the lookout for more episodes that I'll be releasing in the nearby future.